Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our January dialogues. And I am trying to get this to show up as a PowerPoint here. There we go. So I am the host today and the presenter. So bear with me as we work through this in our new year. I'm trying to got some people trying to get in. And we'll get started. We're just going to take a look at the WASDE that came out a week ago on Thursday, and got some long-term charts showing national information and South Dakota information, production and such. So that's what we're going to take a look at today, and we'll see here. I'm going to stop just a little bit and pause this and make sure I can get everybody in. Sorry about this, guys. Well, I am struggling this morning. Sorry about that. Can you hear me? I need somebody to respond.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that somehow now I can't find my video, so I don't know what's going on there. Well, we'll just roll with what we got here. So there's the contact information. Like I said, we're going to go through the WASDE report that came out last week, and got a lot of slides to go through, and we will take a look at that. Maybe. Man. Okay. Now we're going. So we're just going to start a few slides on hay. This is really probably somewhat at a crisis mode almost. We probably won't see expansion back in the cow herd until some of this hay supply gets back in line. And you can see we're right around where we were with at 2012. And we remember what kind of drought we had in 11 and 12. And it took back to 13 and on into 15, 16 to get hay supplies back up and expansion going in the cow herd. So we are at some very low levels. This is a prediction for 23. I would say might be somewhat optimistic on their part. All hay stocks as of December 1st. And this is starting at 70, not at 0. So just so you are aware of that. And 80 is kind of that critical mark, and we are a little bit below that. So a couple years in a row. So it's going to take a little bit of time probably to get that built back up. We were able to do it quite quickly in 13, but we'll see how we are going forward. It's just showing the percent change from year to year as of December 1st. And as you can see in these southern states straight south of us, really that heavy drought stuff and depleted their inventories and stocks. Again, taking a look at the drought monitor, really has an effect probably on that hay and being the ability to build it back up. Those hay stocks hasn't changed much in the last few weeks, even with the snows. Of course, it'll take a while for those to to get soaked in and adjust. Maybe some of the colors have lightened a little bit, but still probably the same footprint that we have as far as widespread drought. All right, we'll start in with the corn and take a look at the balance sheet, and then I have some charts showing kind of each line item, production and feed, residual food, ethanol use, exports, and our ending stock. So we can see what it looks like over time on a graph. Probably the big surprise coming out of this report was the cut in acreage. And in the acres harvested, not planted, but in the acres harvested from December to January, which would reflect probably a lot of stuff that was cut for silage or abandoned as not worth harvesting. So that was the big impact of the report in the reduction of production for the 22 year. Still fairly tight stocks to use to finish out this year. And I'll show some charts on price and where we were in comparable years, looking at our new crop that we'll be planting this spring. I think one thing to keep in mind as we look at this, look at our total use, compare it to 21 and then to 22. So close to a billion bushel that we've cut. So price is starting to ration. If we think that we can just keep high prices and, you know, it's doing its job. It's cutting some of the use. So just wanted to make you aware of that, and we'll move on to the chart. So they're just graphically showing our cut in production. We're not near down to what we were in 12, but we are quite a bit lower than what we were. And again, we're using more than we were back there, but we'll see as we move forward through these high prices of corn and how use may shrink. So yield, of course, with the cut in acres went up just a little bit, not much change from our December report, and a final yield of right at 173. And here again is just graphically showing our large drop in acres harvested. So not many years that happens. It usually is around, on a national basis, is about 8 million acres difference. And we're above that this past year. So feed and residual right around that 5 billion in use, down a little bit from the past couple years. Again, that would show probably a reduction in cow herd, maybe using some wheat to fill that up, and some substitutes for corn. Exports.
Yeah, I'll eat them. The phone went at that time.
And if we could have you mute, make sure everybody's muted, that would be great. Exports getting hurt on a couple deals, the higher dollar, and if we're world economy goes in recession, then they're going to turn to the dollar for support, and the dollar becomes stronger. That hurts our export sales as we become more expensive when that happens. The other thing is the ability to ship, and the river system south of St. Louis was really tough. They couldn't load the barges as heavy to get that corn and stuff to the Gulf. So that had an impact, taking longer to ship it, not able to ship it as fast if it was needed. That has impact both ways in bringing fertilizer up the river and also then getting our material out. Food, seed, and industrial, this includes the ethanol, and we'll take a look at where ethanol is. Fairly steady, a little bit of drop from last year, from 21. And here's the ethanol use. Again, that's probably where our drop came from in the food, seed, and industrial. And here, ending stocks. We're right at that 1.2 billion for this year. So this crop going forward through this year will probably stay high. It's what will happen in our growing year for 23 and how that fares going forward. Just switching a little to South Dakota production. We tend to be around that 700 million bushel. We plant close to 6 million acres. And Kelly, if you could mute, that would be great. So just showing that here again, we got our drop off in harvested acres, stuff being cut for silage and or abandoned, just not worth running the combine through. So really the effects of this past year's drought. Statewide average yields right around that 130 level, I think is where we ended up. You know, we can do 140, 150 on a state level. When we get a little drier or have rougher conditions, kind of drops to that 125, 130 area. Still not near as bad as what we were in 12. Okay, switching to long-term chart. So the line, the black line is the closes, and I did this for 10 years. So back to 2012. And then just split it into thirds from the high here to our lows. And that's our red and green lines. So just wanted to show long-term where the top third is, where your middle range is in price. This is a continuation chart, I should say. It's not for a month. I know it says a month up here, but it is just a long-term monthly continuation. So it just picks up the new contract each month. So that's what this is. And it's the close of each day. So it was higher on its peak during the day, but it didn't close any higher than what this is showing. So we've been really in that top third for most of this crop. We did dip in it a little bit. And I think we need to think about that as we're looking to 23. We're still right around, can probably price in at $6 on the futures, maybe a little over, which still puts us in kind of that middle range or middle third, but on the upper part of that at least, are very close. We don't want to let this crop escape us, as it's one of the most expensive crops that we're going to put in 23 and have to end up pricing them down in that bottom third. So another one, just looking at new crop corn prices, is a daily close of the December contract. I went back to June 1st of the prior year and ended on December 1st of the expiration year. And I have a series of these that I'll show. So this is just showing December 23 and December 22. I did this last week, so we're off a little bit, and what happened this week is not in there. But just wanted to show that we are above where we were last year, and then I'll add some, I think I'd do 2012 and 13 and show where that compares. So here we added 12. You know, 23 new crop is kind of really tracking right where 12 was. As we come into January, maybe exports slow down, things slow down a little bit on price. And then it really just stayed around that 5 to 5.5 until we got out to pollination, and we figured in 12 that we did not have a crop nationwide, that it was going to be short. So then it took off. The next one I'll add 2013 is in the green. Again, tracking very close to where we are right now. And then as we go out, really tracked right along with 12, staying right at that $5, 5.5. And then we figure out this is going to be a really good crop, and it tails off into harvest. Really good crop, plus probably the rationing that had happened from 11 and 12. So things to think about as we're moving through this year. Matt put this together. This is using the baseline that USDA comes out with. So it's the baseline projections. So it won't quite match up with the WASDE report. But what he's done is broken into different timeframes of their long-term projections and putting in a stocks to use and then estimating where price would be based on stocks to use. So just that's all right. Where, as we get out farther, expecting stocks to use to increase, of course, price would be falling. As we lower, and we're right around that 9 level, we expect price to rise. Okay, switching to soybeans. I think again, crush has been really pretty good in the U.S., both for meal and oil. That's been good. Our reduction in use is really coming from exports. And again, river system and the dollar. Also, maybe China stepping out and not importing as much from the world as a whole. Now there's talk that they're opening back up, and that could expand the use of soybeans over there. So again, I want you to notice that the price is doing its job and starting to do some rationing, and we find that our total use is down. So just a long-term picture of harvested acres and bushels per acre. We're right at that little over 4 billion for production in the U.S. Again, not as low as what we have been in the past, or the past severe drought and when prices took off. Crush has increased, so we are using quite a bit. The talk you probably hear is renewable diesel. The soybeans aren't the only feedstock that can be used for renewable diesel, but it will add use as those plants come online. Many of those probably won't be starting up till 24 or 25, so it's somewhat anticipated, and we'll see how many get finally built and put into use. But that'll be a good final product and use of soybeans. Again, exports where we decreased, and a lot of that again dollar and the river system. Showing ending stocks, I think that's right at 212, 220. Not as low as we were back in 2012 timeframe, but we are pretty low and pretty tight. So should keep our current crop fairly high priced, but we'll see as we plant our new one and where we end up Again, this is that continuation chart of the closes clear back to 2012 and divided them into thirds. So just wanted to show that long-term so you can get a long-term picture. You know, when we're talking, oh my, I want to wait for 15 or 16. I can't sell for 14, can't sell for 13. I got to wait for 15 or 16. Well, we can pull out this chart and say, yeah, we can, but maybe not. Here I just threw same thing that we did with the corn, and the gray is 23. November new crop again, June 1st and end on November 1st. Here's 22. So we were above where we were last year. Right now, we're right around that $13 level, I think, on our new crop. So it has fallen off since I've done this, but still right at where we were last year. Again, Matt put this together using baselines for those different years and showing how price would react based on that information and compared to a stocks to use. So we can see that it comes very steep as we get back in here below that 6-7 level in a stocks to use ratio. Just showing long-term South Dakota acres. We plant around 5 million, maybe up to 5.5 on a really good year. Kind of stayed around that 5 million. Corn acres, we plant around 6 million acres in South Dakota. So they're real close to being even. Statewide yield, I could say that 42 to 45. We've fallen below that the past couple of years. Part of that's we expand acres, maybe we go further west, and just been a couple tough growing years, not catching those rains in the fall to finish out yield. And just showing total production for South Dakota. We do have some wheat stuff. As we see here, we used a lot of wheat domestically. So it went up this last year. We don't have, the US wheat doesn't have an impact maybe on price because so much wheat is grown around the world. We are tighter than we have been. Our ending stocks are tighter, quite a bit tighter than we were 5 years ago. So that has helped elevate the price somewhat. But again, they said the world stocks have more importance than we do, or our stocks do not necessarily affect the world price on wheat. So just looking at US wheat production, wanted to show it graphically for a long period of time, got 20 years showing there. And you can see, got 2007, that time frame, we just kind of fallen off since that. And you think about what happened during that time frame, you know, everybody's growing wheat, more demand for ethanol and corn use. So just really probably took away from wheat acres, and the genetics that have come in the corn and soybeans, able to move those crops further west and further north, has probably used up some of those wheat acres. Yeah, we're down quite a bit on our ending stocks, which is positive for price of wheat. Exports falling off again, dollar-wise and river. Domestic use kind of stayed right in around the same as we see here. And this is the amount that's used for food. So most of the wheat used for food and not for feeding. We can see back in 12, they started to substitute some of it for feed when corn got so high. Yeah, and here really shows how harvested acres have dropped off in the last 15 years. Just a little bit on the winter wheat, and then we'll do a little bit on spring wheat. So again, ending stocks probably the tightest they've been in, I believe I read close to 20 years. But Russia, there were more exports coming out of Russia than expected. So some of that's put pressure on the market. And the other thing that we're looking at for all the grains will be Argentina and South America. They're receiving some decent weather this week, and forecasts are good for the next couple of weeks for them to catch up on some of the rain. We'll see how that fares. Just showing the use and what total use is graphically. Just wanted to share that with you. Again, ending stocks very, very tight. In production, down below what we were back in that time frame of 2011 and 12. There is our ending stocks. Okay, so showing new crop wheat. This would be the July contract. So looking at that from June 1st the year before to July 1st of the expiration year. Again, when we put this together, we were above where we were last year. Adding some years in. So we are above where we have been, and definitely way above where we were in 19 and 20. Again, showing that close for the July contract and dividing it into thirds. We're still on the upper end of that middle third for pricing our new crop. So still probably not too bad opportunities. Of course, we'll have to see how winter wheat it comes out as we move into spring. South Dakota acres, again, just showing where we're at there for planted and harvested. And our South Dakota production. We ended up planting a nationwide about what we did last year. Okay, this is switching to spring wheat, planted and harvested. Again, ending stocks tightening up in these last 2 years. U.S. production. We went up quite a bit last year. We were able to, price was really good, drew in spring wheat, and they did have a pretty decent growing season for wheat this past year in 2022. They're showing our use. And ending stocks, really for the U.S. Tight, not as tight as we were back 7 and 8, but we're probably the lowest that we've been in that 15 years. Showing the price on the close and then dividing it into thirds. So right around 990 and then dropping below 740 for the bottom part. And South Dakota. So I think, you know, with interest rates rising and where we're at with this crop, the finance being one of the most expensive ones that we're going to put in, we need to really work on that financial management. We haven't had high interest rates. We haven't had to worry about that for quite some time. I think it's important to pay attention to what interest expense is going to be. If we're storing a crop, what it's done to our cost of storing. If we're borrowing money and have to refinance into a higher operating, what does that look like if we would go ahead and sell some of that crop, you know, which is in the top third of the market, and maybe use some of that for internal financing. Keep that working capital strong as we go through this year. And I like to see a rolling cash flow and actually use it, you know, do a good job of projecting and then do a monthly monitoring of where we're at. It allows you to make adjustments if you need to, and maybe take advantage of some opportunities that are presented. That's what I have for today. Do we have questions?